Yeah, so I guess I can get started. So Friday here. I'm a part of the Ember project, as well as volunteering for the Ember organization, as we do have the token project and an organization fully incorporated behind that. I'm a member of the community success team, and so as part of my responsibilities, working between the core members of the team and the rest of the community, driving engagement, making sure that community questions are answered, moderating inside the Discord chats. We did have a Telegram chat, so I just wanted to make sure that anybody who's aware that may be looking for us on Telegram, we've migrated all of our users over to Discord as well. Other parts of my responsibilities include, supporting the core team in whatever way necessary.
Awesome.
Over to you, JT.
Yeah. So sorry, if I can't hear everything or if my voice is messed up, but I'm still having a problem with the speaker. But yeah, for as far as me, I'm also a volunteer with Ember. Uh, we kind of help the core team out with different things as far as social media and trying to spread the word out and giving our advice on how to make things better and things like that. And yeah, that's
Interesting.
pretty much it for me so far.
Interesting. So Ember has kind of like a lot of volunteers on their staff team as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is a combination. So we do have those members who volunteer as part of the community. So we have, moderators, helpers. We do have folks who are, part of the Discord and the community that help with technical analysis and different aspects like that. But at the same time, we do have the core team that most folks can find on the website, as well as those of us who are part of the community success, as well as what we've just created as well, the customer success team, given the beta launch of our Ember checkout solution, and wanting to make sure that, as we onboard projects to the Ember checkout, that they do have a channel for support if anything does go wrong with that solution.
Wow, that's interesting. That's kind of cool that you guys have so many volunteers on your team. Like, is it just you two, or are there more as well?
Oh no.
Oh no, yeah,
I don't have exact numbers, but I think maybe JT, you might have a count of that, just an
um,
estimate.
I would say, a lot of us, we kind of, we were here at the ground up with the project, and so I feel like there's more of a connection with the core team as far as being able to talk. They're always transparent with us, and we kind of just go out of our way because I feel like there's a closer connection there. And so yeah, there's a good amount of people that help us, whether it's like tweeting about us, giving suggestions. Our Discord is really being ramped up with people like Friday on the community success team, just helping us grow and get better and more professional as time goes on. So our community is rock solid right now.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
between the community success, the customer success, as well as the moderators and helpers in the community for the discords and such, I would say we're probably close to 15 to 20 people, just based on the continued growth and people wanting to get involved. We even have what we consider a Sparks set of members in the community, where they're actively involved in trying to, like JT said, help to promote the Ember brand, and as it relates to tweeting, reacting to tweets, making sure that the word gets spread. And it's been amazing to see that a lot of them have stepped up to do this without even truly, having to ask too difficult a question to say, can you guys support this for us? Like JT said, like a lot of folks have been around from the ground up, and so they're really excited to see what Ember does.
Yeah, strong community. If anybody's been in crypto for long enough, they know that if a project doesn't have a community behind it, it's probably not going to go anywhere. So that's really cool to hear that you guys have such a passionate community around Ember. So getting into what Ember is, what is like briefly, like what do you guys do and what are you trying to accomplish? Like what problem are you guys trying to solve?
Okay, so I guess I'll lead off on this one. Pretty much one of our slogan is Ember, your gateway to a decentralized world. So our mission right now is we're trying to make the crypto and DeFi space a lot more user friendly, so we can have that mainstream adoption that we've always wanted for crypto, right? Make it more easily accessible to, you know, your average person, because, you know, not everybody, you know, really knows what a pancake swap is and how to set the slippage and, you know, all that stuff that, you know, to us is pretty easy, but, you know, not everyone wants to go through that, right? So that's one of our main that's one of our main things that we want to be able to do, is make it more accessible and user friendly, you know, for the average investor.
And like JT said, it's, you know, your gateway to a decentralized world. And, you know, essentially to kind of wrap that up and sort of when you think about, you know, the process you have to go through today and the many hops just from going from getting your real, you know, fiat currency to trying to buy a specific token if it's not like a layer one or native, you know, you're going to have to go through all these different hops and steps of, you know, transferring here, waiting for confirmation there, then you still have to swap here. And so the idea around what we're doing with Ember, and especially the Ember checkout, which is the initial product we're launching, is reimagining that, making that process as seamless and as simple as possible, meaning the process that you use today with a PayPal or Stripe to make your purchases online, why should it be, you know, 10 times more difficult for you to actually do that in the crypto space? Like, why shouldn't you be able to get the same seamless, you know, experience that you do with your day-to-day purchases to be able to make your investments and buy your crypto tokens?
Exactly.
Yeah, breaking down the learning curve in DeFi is definitely something that will need to be done if the DeFi space is going to grow as a whole and invite new users to join. So that is something that I can really get behind. And I actually do run a project myself called Chain of State DAO, and we've talked a couple times amongst ourselves as the team, and we said that one of our biggest opportunities to grow as a project would be to have new people that are just getting into crypto be able to purchase our token directly on our website through fiat currency. But there's obviously a lot of hoops that go into that, like how do we set up a payment system, or how do we not get regulated as a broker, and then all these different things. So your checkout would then kind of be our solution to that problem, right? With kind of integrating your checkout on our website, then that all that processing and payments go through your system. And obviously, I'm assuming you would take a fee from that, but it would also allow us to accomplish our goal of having our new users be easily able to purchase our token.
Yes, exactly. You know, 100%. You know, that's what it's all about. You know, instead of having to redirect someone to Pancake Swap or Uniswap or a different DEX, you know, just send your new users to your website. One click, you know, a couple clicks here and there, and you know, boom, you got it.
And one of the things you mentioned actually that I wanted to touch on is the element of the, you know, fee as well as the decks that you mentioned in terms of how do you set up that processing. And so the way how Ember Checkout works, and for those who may not be familiar, it's we're actually not, you know, creating another decentralized exchange, because there are those that are already existing that work well the way they do. You have the Pancake Swaps, the Uniswap, Sushi Swaps of the world. And so there's no reason for us to go and create an additional DEX that would require you to, you know, deploy additional liquidity. So the way how Ember Checkout works is that it works today with the existing, you know, decentralized exchange that you're already set up on. So if, you know, Chain of State DAO, for example, is set up on Pancake Swap or Sushi Swap, then Ember Checkout would actually integrate with that swap to make sure that your customers or your investors actually, as they, you know, go to your website, you know, do their research, understand what Chain of State DAO is trying to doing from a real estate perspective, and once they're interested, you don't have to redirect them to Pancake Swap. You don't have to redirect them off of your site to go make that, you know, purchase. It doesn't need to be that complicated. They can literally just on your website directly, as you said, you know, connect their wallet, make their transaction, and they're done. And like JT said, there's no having to fumble around with the slippage or any of that detail, because that's already embedded in the checkout for your project for you. And then as it relates to the fee that we take for that, one thing to realize is that the project itself from an Ember checkout deployment, that is free for the project. There is a 1% fee that Ember checkout, will charge to the investor or the user using the checkout at the time, but there's no charge for the project itself. And so JT, I don't know if you wanted to go over a bit in terms of the fee breakdown.
So as pretty much as far as like what the fees go for.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so pretty much that 1%, when you break it down, 0.8 goes to revenue for us building the project, being able to develop more things, and then a 0.1% that goes to a DAO. So right now our main focus is on donating to things that will help further educate people on crypto and DeFi. Getting the future generations more knowledge and insight and being prepared on what's going on. And another 0.1% will go to a buyback, so that will a certain amount that will go to buying back the token and keeping the price stable.
Right on, right on. So I may or may not be asking this question for selfish reasons, but what is the process to go through to get the Ember checkout widget on the website itself?
So if anybody's interested in getting the checkout, since we're still in beta right now, and if you're listening, we might be out of beta by the time you're listening, but as it stands today, we do have a link to a form that you can complete for registration for the beta. Once you complete the form, that gets sent to the back end, and the team will then reach out to you to then talk about getting that checkout deployed to your site. The amazing thing that, for me, it's mind-blowing, with somebody who has somewhat of a technical background, the fact that it's almost self-service in the sense that today I could actually use the checkout builder that the team has developed to create a version of the checkout for any token that we wanted to on the 21 blockchains that we currently support. And we're adding new blockchains as we go along because we want to make sure that we create an ecosystem that a user can buy any token that they choose from any blockchain in a few simple clicks without having to go to different dexes. But specifically for your project, if it's something that you're interested in, for example, we could, use the checkout builder in a few clicks, set the parameters as it relates to your project. If you have any taxes, any slippage, anything like that, that we need to accommodate for. And within 5 minutes, you can deploy that onto your website and it's fully operational.
Okay, 'cause our developer has been actually talking to Jason, your CEO, I believe, and
Yes.
I haven't heard from them from my developer in a couple of days regarding the checkout, but I'll have to follow up with him. I know he's been busy with a couple other things too, but yeah, that sounds super easy. Making it as easy as possible, obviously, is the best way to go.
For sure. Like the intent is that we want to get to a place where it's fully automated and fully self-serve because we do understand that we have a vision to simplify, the way how people engage and, invest in the crypto space. And we want to make sure that projects are able to leverage the solution as easily and as seamlessly as possible in the sense that you can use the checkout builder, like I said, plug in the parameters, get the code and drop it in on your website in easy as in a few clicks and you're off to the races.
Yep. And our goal is also to make it as safe as possible as we can, as far as, watching out for honeypots or whatever, so that's also a thing that is very important to us.
That's right, JT. And so some of the things that we're looking at and have already implemented, for example, there are certain checks that are being done in terms of a checkout being built for a specific token or project. So think in the sense that, is the liquidity locked on that project? Do they have enough liquidity? Or, there's certain things that we can do as the Ember project to make sure that, if there are any warning signs, for example, is the project audited? Or if they are, what is that audit score that we can ultimately look to create as maybe a risk score that we can give any sort of confidence that we can potentially to the investor to say, hey, there might be some warning signs for this particular project. Be mindful as you're about to go invest. Otherwise, for other projects. It could be they're all in the clear, everything seems to be above board, they have their audit, the liquidity is locked, so on and so forth. And that way, you want to make sure that, like I said, it's as safe as possible. The other thing we're also potentially looking at doing as well is making sure that from a regulatory and a compliance perspective, we're also putting checks and balances in place so that if a specific investor, for example, might have been flagged for whatever reason, they would not be able to interact with the Ember checkout.
Interesting. Yeah, safety is definitely important. So would your kind of due diligence be an actual person on the Ember team kind of looking at these projects and determining what's kind of riskier or what's safe? Or would it be something automated like a token sniffer self-audit?
Yeah, there's automation for sure in place. I believe the intent will be in a future state that if there is a project, for example, that does get flagged for whatever reason, there will be, an appeals process that they can go through to be able to say, hey, like, I'm seeing this, but is there anything we can do to get the project going on my site? And then that's where you'd require, a person to intervene to review that project to see if there's anything that was there in the red flag that we can, give an override for if necessary.
Okay, that makes sense for sure.
Yeah, one of the things we're also, proud about in terms of the Ember checkout and, what we're doing and driving to with Ember is around our partnerships that we're building. And JT can tell you a bit about some of the partnerships that we have.
Exactly. So, just bouncing off the security point, we're very proud and we take seriously our partnership that we've made with Hacking. A lot of people know, they do security audits on projects, and they make sure everything is going through fine. And that's one of the things that a lot of projects, if they want to work with us or create their own project through us, they'll have a security audit by Hacking. So that's one thing that helps us make the space more safe, and help us give people more information on the security aspect. Try to avoid the honeypots and the rug pulls and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. One other question I had before I will kind of also want to talk on the Ember token itself and how that integrates. But one last question about the checkout is: are there any like regulatory things that you have to comply with distributing out tokens for fiat currency? I know that could be a heavily regulated space, so I'm curious to see what you guys are doing about that too.
Yeah, so in regards to the Fiat integration that we'll have with Ember Checkout, the beauty about it is that we're partnering with Wire and their actual Fiat integration technologies. And so because they're already a payment processor, they've already done that check and balance. They've already complied with regulation. So as it relates to, what Ember would be required to comply with, it wouldn't be in the sense that we have things like, PCI regulations that we'd have to comply with because of the fact that the processing will be done through Wire, who's already done this process and is already known in that space today.
Interesting, because I was thinking about it like about a month ago, and I was like, if we did put this on our website and coded it ourselves, we'd have to definitely get like a brokerage license, and that would just be quite the process to integrate something like that on our website. So that's definitely good to hear that Wire would already have all that kind of the due diligence done for that. So that's awesome. So now you have an Ember token too, and I'm curious to see like how does that integrate with the whole Ember system? I know you obviously have the buybacks from the fees that the checkout gives, but how do people benefit from the Ember token? Like what else would they want to buy it for?
Did you want to take this one, JT, or should I go?
Okay, yeah, that's cool. So we can pretty much talk about, the things we have coming up. One of the first things that come to mind is, like I mentioned before, we have an IDO launchpad in the works later on this year. Where projects, they'll have tools, they'll be able to, they have access to, blockchain engineers, economists, um, just being able to build whatever they need, and our job isn't to limit you. Our job is to just give you the tools that you would need to create your project and to see your vision be fulfilled. Do you want to touch on that, Friday?
Yeah, for sure. And with respect to the token and how that would, play in, the idea, and these are things that are still being, planned and finalized. So please, if something does change, I do apologize because, like I said, we're still pretty early stages as it relates to things like the IDEO Launchpad. But the idea there is that for new projects that are going to be launching through the IDEO Launchpad, one of the things that was thought of, for example, is that as an Ember token holder, depending on the amount of tokens that you hold or how long you might have been holding, that might provide additional benefits in terms of maybe early access to the pre-sales and such, as it relates to the DAO that we would be working with as well, in terms of the fees and such. Having tokens or being a holder, that also would allow you to participate in that governance process in terms of where we donate to and how much we donate. In terms of other benefits for token holders, we also do have a staking platform. It is not a primary offering, but it is something that the team did create, and it's there for users who are interested in, staking their tokens, earning passive rewards, while we're continuing to build and progress throughout the ecosystem. And so the current staking rewards that we offer are in the form of 1 week, 4 weeks, and 52 weeks. The 1 week option, we have a 15% APY, 4 weeks is 16.2% APY, and the 52 weeks is 47% APY. And these rates are all fixed. They're not fluctuating, meaning that the more people stake, the rewards that you get are not going to be reduced. They are working on a V2 staking contract as well that would introduce additional options, maybe a 3-month staking or a 6-month staking, as well as, one of the things that they've considered potentially would be maybe compounding staking for longer term holders.
Okay, I like it. So in its current state, so if I were to get into Ember, if I were to become an investor, I could then stake my tokens, and then once you guys come out with your launch pad, then I could also participate in these pre-sales, and then also I would benefit from the buybacks that the checkout would provide. That's kind of like the whole ecosystem. Am I getting that correctly?
Absolutely. And so the buyback feature is, one of the biggest elements in that, it doesn't require a user to buy the Ember token to see any sort of movement in the price action or in terms of creating stability in the liquidity, because that fee that we're getting from the use of Ember checkout helps to create that stability. The other thing as well we're looking at is, given that we have a lifetime supply of, 300 million that we are going to be, continuously circulating. That also allows for the ability for a user, for example, when we get to later stages of updates to the Ember checkout, the ability to buy a pair of jeans, for example, online. This would give you the ability, not just with the Fiat on-ramp, but the additional features in checkout, for example, to allow you to go online and go to any store that might be using the Ember checkout to actually pay with Ember or even an additional token that you might have in your wallet. As long as there's liquidity, you can actually use that to actually make that purchase. And so who wouldn't want the ability so that if, for example, there's a project that you were in and it didn't do so well, you maybe have $5 left. You wanted to buy a cup of coffee. You can use that token and buy that cup of coffee with that $5 because there's still liquidity left for that token. So there's no discrimination in terms of you being able to use that token when we get to sort of that phase 3 type release where you can swap any token for any token. And so the way this is going to work is that, for example, if a business decides to use Ember checkout as part of their website or even in store, they can decide that they want to accept Ember or Chain of State DAO, for example, as the token that they want from purchases. But on the flip side, for the consumer who's actually making the purchase, I can choose to actually make that purchase with, I don't know, Shiba Inu or Bra for that matter. But then all of the transactions, the transactional process to actually swap that token over from one chain to another, all of this cross-chain transactions, it will happen in the back end, allowing that token to get to Chain Estate DAO or Ember, whatever the case may be, to make that purchase.
Exactly. So pretty much, you can pay them whatever crypto you want, and they can choose to accept a certain crypto as the business.
Yeah, I definitely like that. You guys are definitely have a big picture mindset, but I had the thought, like, if somebody put a couple $100 into Safe Moon last year, and then now they have like $5 to show for it, they can get themselves a cup of coffee with their $200 they put into Safe Moon.
Yep.
It is possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's part of why it becomes such a powerful thing, right? Because now, you don't have to think about, say, for example, if it was $5 on Ethereum as it stands today, right? Like the gas fees would be crazy, right? You'd be able to, do that sort of transaction, and hopefully the swap back to native would have less gas fees than if you were to do a straight up transaction with that token.
Yeah, for sure. I do think that the opportunity for a checkout like that is absolutely huge. I mean, mainstream adoption of crypto, like your guys' mission is something that's coming, no matter what, in my opinion at least. And whoever's going to be on top of that is really going to reap the benefits of that. And I think of the buybacks though as they can be so huge because think maybe a few years down the line, your checkout has as much volume as a decentralized exchange like PancakeSwap does. Well, they're doing like $500 million to $1 billion a day. 0.1% doesn't seem like much, but when you take it off of a number like $1 billion, that could be, potentially $1 million of buys going in from the buybacks every single day. So that
Absolutely.
big picture is definitely, I see a lot of potential for sure.
Yep. And you add that with the ability to create an ecosystem in terms of how a user or an investor, discovers crypto, how they invest in crypto. And then when we get to the point of the project side where they're creating and communicating, that's what the overall sort of Ember ecosystem sort of drives to achieve in terms of being able to create that one-stop shop for users to be able to buy any token they want. And like I said before, on any one of the 21 blockchains we currently have. And in the future we'll add additional blockchains as well. And so any token that is created on a specific blockchain that is supported, you'd be able to go to ember.org and essentially buy that token in less than a minute based on the processing speed. But then at the same time, once you're done buying a token on, say, the BSC chain, you can easily do a filter and swap it over to like the Ethereum chain or the Brise chain or AVAX or whatever the case may be, and buy a token from any of those chains. And in future instances or iterations, you'll be able to, instead of having to buy directly from that chain using native, you'd easily be able to use your token from chain A and swap it over cross chain to a token on another chain in as simple as a few clicks.
Exactly. So pretty much, say if you had like BNB, but you're on, the Ethereum on an Ethereum network, you would be able to you could still buy that Ethereum token with that BNB, and behind the scenes, it would transfer that for you. It would just swap it out for you into the Ethereum, and it would take the gas fees that Ethereum would normally have.
Yeah, making the user experience more friendly is definitely something that needs to happen in DeFi. So one other question I had about the checkout real quick is there a KYC that people have to sign up for when doing it?
So as it stands right now, there is no KYC with the current iteration, but based on the exercise of creating the Fiat on-ramp, that's something that still has to be finalized because, again, you would be making a credit card transaction at that point and you would be providing, your actual card details. And so that's something that I think still is yet to be announced in terms of what type of KYC, if any, And if there is, is it up to a certain limit, or, if you stay below a certain limit, you wouldn't necessarily have to do full KYC.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense for sure. So you said the fiat currency on-ramp is in beta, correct?
Yeah, so right now they're working with Wire on the integration for that. I think the target is still to get that out with the full launch that is coming up for Q2. Currently, the beta version of it does not have the Fiat on-ramp integrated as yet, but it is definitely one of the things that they're pushing hard for to make sure that, when we do the full launch, it can be there, unless, there's something major that creates a setback for them to actually do that in, sort of a phase 2 release a few weeks later. But we're working with Wire on that.
And then there's also the Superside partnership we have to make the UI UX look as sharp and clean as possible.
That's right. That's right. We do have a partnership with Superside, who's worked with, Forbes, top 500 companies, including Adidas. If you look on their website, you'll see that they've worked with, companies like Amazon in the past, creating, marketing campaigns for them, and being able to work with an organization like this to create, as I mentioned earlier, that seamless experience that we're used to today in our flow when we're actually buying, actual goods online, whether it's a PayPal or Stripe equivalent. Why is it not that we can't get that same experience today in the DeFi space? And that's what we're trying to change.
Yeah, making everything as top notch as possible is definitely one way to encourage users. Speaking of marketing campaigns, though, what are your upcoming plans to kind of market the release of the Fiat on ramp and then all of the other integrations that you have with the project?
So I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say on that. But what I will say is that based on the partnerships that we have with, organizations like Hacken and Wire, there are conversations around how do we go to market together, given that we are trying to, revolutionize in a way the DeFi space in terms of overall marketing campaign. That's something that the team, has been working on, and you'll see that in the form of whether it's articles or ads or anything in that sort. But yeah, I don't think I'm allowed to say too much more on that one.
All right, fair
But
enough.
you'll
Fair
see,
enough.
you'll see a few things coming.
All right.
For sure.
And then what are you guys doing about competition? Because I know there are other projects and companies that are working to create their own on ramp for fiat. So curious to hear what you guys are doing different.
Yeah, so it's actually funny. A few weeks ago, I actually had a conversation with another project who, was thinking whether or not they wanted to use the checkout. And one of the questions I got asked by the CEO is, what's stopping us from building this ourselves? And I said to him, nothing's stopping you. The simple fact is, like, you think about it and what we're doing or trying to do, you think somebody would have thought about it. You think it would already be out there. But when you look at it, it's being done, but the way how they're doing it is not exactly the way that, it's being done for normal transactional processes. And so in terms of the benchmarking, if you look at it that way, there are other projects out there, other organizations like Paybolt and Flustrade and things like that in terms of what they offer. And that's something that you'll probably see soon in terms of what does Ember Checkout offer that they don't, or, in some cases, because it's table stakes, will offer the same thing, but what do we have as a value add that goes above and beyond what they do? And some of the things we'll look at, for example, would be in terms of the flow that I mentioned in terms of the user experience as compared to some of the other competitors out there today. Other things that we're also looking at would be what is that experience that the project has around their investor metrics and what type of information they can get from that. So as an example, for your project Chain Estate DAO, there's all this information on the blockchain, but, given how busy you guys are, do you really want to go, crawl all that information from the blockchain and try to do analytics on it on your own? Would that be something that you take up on your own to do, Zach?
Probably not. No.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things that we'll offer with the checkout, for example, is an actual dashboard that comes with built-in analytics to allow you to see sort of metrics around, how your project is doing, how your token is doing from an investor perspective. Some of the insights that you could potentially drive from it could be, as much as I put out a tweet at a particular time of day. What impact did that have on the token price? Was there a massive sell-off? Was it only, a 10% sell-off? These are the types of insights that you can get, like how many holders you have. These are things you can get from the blockchain, but at the same time, it's how do you correlate all of this information to drive real insight so that you as a project can continue to actually learn and look at how do I continue to engage my investors and continue to grow them. So that's one of the things that we're definitely going to be doing differently to what we see other projects doing today. Other things would be, the Fiat integration, where some projects we don't see that. For the ones that do have it, the process may be a little bit more clunky. And so that's where we're talking about that seamless UI experience that the user can go through. There'll be more information coming out on that probably in the coming weeks in terms of how does Ember checkout, compare to some of the other ones that exist today.
And just to throw it in, some of these other widgets, they'll charge you to use it. Ours is completely free.
Yeah. Does sound like you
The
guys have sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention that the dashboard is what would be for an additional charge or subscription, whereas the checkout itself will remain free indefinitely.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have definitely thought of that question before, so that's good to hear. But
Yeah, like I mean, if you think about Jason, our CEO, and in terms of, if you ever had a conversation with him and how he describes it, it's that one simple thing that seems easy enough, and you wonder why
It
nobody's done
hasn't
it
been done.
before now.
yeah, yeah, the amount of back end work for something like that is like pretty absurd. Like we did briefly look into it, and we're like, the amount of development work that it would take to bring this on our website to do it ourselves would not at all be worth what the development work we could do somewhere else in the project. So obviously partnering with somebody like you guys would make so much sense in that. And maybe eventually we will have the time to make our own fiat payment system, but I think the amount of time that it would take, it just doesn't make sense, especially for projects just starting out too. So that's good to hear.
And that's the thing, right? Like if at some point in a future state, to your point, that a project wants to go down this route and develop their own, if we can empower them to do that, all the better for it, because we are looking at revolutionizing DeFi.
Yeah, and the partnerships that you guys have too. Like I know haven't said too much about that, but partnerships with companies like Hacken and Wire, those are massive partnerships that I mean, a regular project that has nothing to do with a payment service would probably not very likely get. So that's another perk.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like we did have, and I guess we didn't mention this before, we do have a podcast, a weekly podcast called Today at Ember. JT, I don't know if you wanted to go in a bit more detail on that.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, pretty much today at Ember, you can start off from season one. It's literally like, it's really an educational podcast. They go into what is an LP, the SEC, how to be, make sure every regulation is good, and you can go on from season one. We're on season two. Season two, we actually have interviews with the CEO of Hack and Proof, and I believe the head of crypto for Wire. We have an interview with him, Jamal Reyes, as well. So it's really, Ember is really about education, educating people on what we're doing, trying to be as transparent as we can. And that today at Ember, the podcast, that's a big part of us doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any other cool things like that that we haven't touched on yet?
Let's see. So we haven't talked about the Ember.org ecosystem at
Ooh,
large. I did mention that, it is the ability to have that sort of one-stop shop and being able to buy any tokens you want on, the many blockchains that we support. But I didn't actually go into detail about the rest of the ecosystem in being able to actually be a part of a community and discover, other projects that are coming through the DeFi ecosystem. And so you'll have the ability, in concert with an app that we're also going to be developing as well, to be able to get, latest news on the various projects that are, showcased in the Ember ecosystem. And like I mentioned earlier, with the IDEO Launchpad that we want to release as well, if you're already part of a community or you have an idea and you want to be able to take that forward and drive it through to completion and create a project yourself, you have access to the Ember Brain Trust, if you will, where, you'll be working with the Ember team on, what are the tools and the toolkit that they'll provide to allow you to actually launch your own project successfully. Being able to draw on the relationships that we have with Wire, the relationships that we have with, Hackin, in terms of getting your audits done, the tools that we have, smart contracts, 3 smart contracts actually, in terms of having, the token contract, the vault, as well as the crowd sale that we'd use for the IDEO Launchpad. There's also,
all
additional
completely
tools that are.
audited, of course.
There you go. There's also tools that you'll have, like we mentioned, the dashboard. So it's being able to create this ecosystem that all works in tandem together. So you'll have the Ember ecosystem consisting of the ember.org, the app, we have the V2 staking, the IDEO Launchpad that will come at a later date. The one thing I'll mention about the Launchpad as to why that would be one of the later things or last things that we want to release is that we want to make sure that, if we're working with folks who want to launch their own project, that we have all the tools and the pieces already in place to allow them to successfully do that. So there's no point in us trying to push people through an IDEO Launchpad today when we don't have the full release of Ember Checkout or the app is not fully ready. We want to make sure that they can leverage all of the tools that we would have been building to make sure that they don't have to go through those growing pains.
Yeah, that's a nice ecosystem that Ember has for sure. I do think that what you guys are doing is phenomenal for growing the crypto space as a whole, and I'm really excited to see where you guys go. So if anybody from the audience has any questions that they'd like to ask, now would be a great time. But as far as my questions go, I think you guys answered everything and did a phenomenal job answering my questions. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So it does not look like anybody has any questions, but yeah, like I said, I appreciate you answering all mine. So I do look forward to seeing where you guys are going, and I seriously thank you guys so much for taking your time out of your day to hop on the AMA.
No, awesome, and thank you for having us anytime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for helping us get out there.
for sure,
Appreciate
for
it.
sure. I'll send you the recording shortly.
Awesome. And for anybody, yeah, Zach has created an awesome ecosystem here himself as part of the Cardinal House group. And so you'll see the Ember project listed with a number of projects that he has there as well. And so you'll find all the details as it relates to engaging with our socials, whether it's on the Twitter, in the Discords, the link to our, joinember.com website so you can get more details.